Hello everyone, my name is Victoria. I'm making my week 2 video on YouTube for legal reasoning on chapters 1 through 4 of our book that we're reading in class, written by James A. Gardner and Christine Bartholomew. I actually had James Gardner last year for Law 101. He did touch a little bit on the subjects written in this book. Obviously he wrote it, but reading it in depth actually helped me understand what a legal argument was and how it, what goes into it. So let's just get right into it. And what is a legal argument? So a legal argument to me was just a persuasive tool. It was just something that helped you persuade the judge to make logical connections or logical conclusions from whatever you were arguing, and it helped you win a case. And then let's go into how it talks about how you could do this. So one way was a syllogism, and a syllogism has 3 different components: the major premise, the minor premise, and the conclusion. The major premise is always going to be a rule or a statute or something of that manner. The minor premise is always going to be a fact to that rule or statute, or a fact from your case that pertains to the rule or statute, and then a conclusion is whatever logically follows from those major and minor premises. And then if we go into ways we can strengthen our syllogistic reasoning, sorry, there was a fly there. One way we could do that is ensure that our premises are always true. You don't want someone to kind of dismantle your argument right off the bat because they find out that something is not fact-based, or it's opinion-based, or it's just doesn't follow, it's not very logical. Or 2, another way you could strengthen it would just be to ground your arguments. And the book talks about a couple different ways that you could do this. It says that 1, you can directly ground your argument, or you can indirectly ground your argument. A way you can directly ground your argument would just be, it's kind of already, it is what it is, you know? A direct grounding of your argument is fact-based. It is what it is. The law backs it up. It speaks for itself. It is literally what it says. There's no need to further explain it, and it's factual, backed by the law. That is a direct grounding. And then an indirect, well, actually, let me give an example of that so you kind of understand. I feel like I just kind of brushed over it. An example that the text gives would just be, apples are red because the characteristic given to many apples would be the color red. And so when you think of an apple, you think of the color red. And so they said that was a example that they gave, I guess, of direct grounding. You can't kind of refute that. And then an indirect grounding would be just, you need to further explain yourself, that, you know, someone else might not fully understand or fully grasp the argument that you are making yet, and you need to really get them, to be on your side for this. So you want to give as much information as you can so they understand why it's a good argument. So that's kind of what I took that as. And a way you could do that is just you take whatever premise that you feel like you may need to explain more, or you feel is ungrounded, and you put that into a conclusion of a new syllogism, and then you form 2 new premises from that, and you kind of evaluate that, and you're like, is this now grounded? Does this make sense? Should I explain anything further? Are they going to attack any parts of my argument? Is any part of this weak? And then if it's grounded, then leave it the way it is. If it's not, then you have to redo the process all over again. I know this is really annoying. I'm sorry. And a way to check to make sure that it is grounded is you just use the T model that they were talking about, which is like A equals B, B equals C, A must equal C, kind of the best way, best form of logic. And then another thing I want to talk about is that the book touches on how you can have 2 different avenues for an argument. So it is okay to have multiple different arguments as long as they are, again, fact-based. They make sense to what you want your outcome to be, whatever your position is on the argument. So the example that they gave was North and Main was a dangerous intersection. They said that we could base it on one avenue, which was the car crashes that happen in that area at that intersection, or the traffic that makes it unsafe for pedestrians or children to walk across the street during that time. And those were the 2 avenues that they had, and the book says it's perfectly okay to have multiple different avenues as long as that it's pertains to your argument, it's necessary for argument. You're not just throwing information out there that kind of loses the main point of what you're trying to say or throws people off. It's actually a way that could strengthen your arguments, because if they don't agree with one avenue, they might agree with the other, and you still have a chance to win the case. So yeah. Another way I would just say, like, I know I kind of grazed over it, but just your positioning. Understand, like, form your argument around what you want your outcome to be. Understand your position when you are forming arguments. I think that's really the only things I had to talk about. But I guess some key takeaways from this video would be to ensure that your premises are true, to ground your arguments, to ensure that you're not being too controversial, and if you are, to give them another avenue, an uncontroversial one. You want to keep emotion kind of out of it, and you kind of want to keep it fact-based, logical, you know. And then I guess the last thing I would say is always work in the best interest of your client and ensure that you are formulating your legal arguments properly. I hope I helped a little bit. Goodbye.